Alright guys, so this is the first foldable we're going to do for geometry, and this foldable is one of, I don't know, the first three that cover section 1.1. Now, chapter 1 is a whole lot of vocab. You're probably going to be a little bit overwhelmed, but there's a lot of vocabulary that we'll learn in chapter 1. But just overall, geometry is very, very, very heavily vocabulary based. So even if you know how to do all the math, if you don't understand the vocabulary, you're really, really going to struggle in this class. So please learn the vocabulary, and hopefully these foldables will help you. All right, so the first one we have is a point. Okay, now the definition of a point is going to be an exact location, and the key word here is location, so I'm going to underline it, exact location in space. Okay, I'm going to put here that it has no dimension. So you hear of like one-dimensional, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, things like that. This has no dimension. So if we're going to draw point A, usually points come with a dot and then a capital letter A. Okay, so if we see something like this, we could either name it point A, or we can name it just A. Now it is very important that these are capital letters because, as we'll learn later on, if they're lowercase, that signifies something else. All right, so next on our list is a line. Okay, now a line is a straight object with no thickness. That extends forever in both directions. And some of you guys may have covered this in middle school. So a line would look, I don't know, something like this. And it's going to have an arrow on both ends. And each of these arrows signifies it goes off forever to the left. And this arrow over here signifies it goes off forever to the right. Okay, usually you have a couple points, A and B we'll call it. And if we wanted to name this line, we could call it AB, but you have to have the double arrow on top of it. If you don't, this is something entirely different. Okay. Or you could also name it BA with that same symbol on top. And then every once in a while, there'll be like a lowercase cursive letter towards the end. In this case, it's an L, and that would also be the name of the line. It won't always have this, but a lot of times if you're going to be referring to that line a whole bunch, the diagram will include something like that. All right, let's go next to the ray. Okay, so under the ray flap, we're going to write the definition. An array is simply part of a line. Okay, and it consists of one endpoint and then it goes forever in one only direction. So remember, lines went forever in two directions. This goes forever in one direction. Okay, and this is one dimensional. Okay, I don't think I put it on the line, but lines are also one dimensional. Okay. All right. So illustration. So we have an endpoint, which is literally where it ends, the point that ends the whole thing. So we're going to call it, I don't know, D and E. Okay, so it starts at this point, or you can say it ends at this point. It starts at this point and goes forever in this direction. Okay, so this is considered the end point. Okay, now when we write this, when we name it, we always start with the endpoint first. Okay, and then whatever direction it goes off is the second point. So it's going off towards Z forever. And then we have just a single arrow on top that tells us it's a ray. Okay, now I want to show you something else. This can be kind of tricky. So let's say we also have this ray right here. This time it goes left. Okay, so let's let this be X and this be Y. I don't know. Okay, we would name this one over here. We always start with the endpoint first. So if we look up here, the endpoint is X, right? This is always the end point first. And then it's whatever direction it's going. So it's going forever towards Y. And we're going to put this on top. Now I want you to notice that even though this arrow's face to the left, the notation we use will always go to the right. Okay, and that's because we always start with the endpoint and then it tells us what direction it's going. So we can just look at the diagram, and if we know it starts at X and goes forever towards Y, we know that it would have to be going left. All right, let's go ahead and do line segment now. Okay, so a line segment is also just a part or a piece of a line. Okay. And line segments consist of two endpoints. And all points in between. Okay, I'm going to put in parentheses, doesn't go forever in any direction. Okay, and this is also one-dimensional. Okay, so a line segment, it has two endpoints, so an endpoint here and say an endpoint here, and then we're just going to connect those two dots. So it starts and it stops, or it starts and it stops. So let's do, I don't know, L and K. Okay, so if we name this, we could either call it LK, and it has just a straight line over the top with no arrows. That signifies that it's not going forever in either direction. Or we could write this the other way as KL. Once again, make sure you have the line on top of them. All right, let's look now at opposite rays. Okay, so opposite rays would be two rays that share an endpoint but continue forever in exactly opposite directions. Okay, they go off forever in exactly opposite directions. All right, so if I draw this, so here's one ray, and then I'm going to draw the other in a different color. Okay, here's the other, so like A, B, and C. Okay, so I would say that ray AC, so it starts at A, goes forever towards C, and ray AB, right, which is this way. So AC would be this ray, AB would be this ray. These are opposite rays. All right, so last but not least, we're going to talk about planes. And planes can get kind of confusing once we get to diagrams, but luckily we'll talk a lot about planes in the first chapter, and then there won't be a whole lot about planes after that. All right, so a plane is a flat surface that continues in all directions. Okay, so it goes left, right, up, down, forever and ever and ever. Okay, and that means that this is actually two-dimensional. It goes left and right and up and down. Okay, so if I were to draw this, so it's flat. Of course, we can't draw it going on forever and ever. And we usually have a letter, uppercase letter down in the corner. And then, I don't know, let's put 3 points on here. Let's put, I don't know, X, Y, and Z. Why not? Okay, so when we name planes, we can either name them by the letter in the corner. And guys, we don't have a symbol for plane, so we have to write plane before it. Okay, if you just say B, that would be wrong. Okay, it has to be plane B. So we can either write it as plane B, or we can write it as plane X, Y, Z. And I just want to note that these can be in any order. But they do have to be 3 non-collinear points. Okay? And all non-collinear means is that it's 3 points that don't lie on the line. Okay, so clearly X, Y, and Z aren't all on a straight line, so you can name this plane X, Y, Z.